Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you at, whatever time it is. It's tap in. We tapping in. Fanatical Elves, dog food uh, affiliate. We coming to you right now. I know it's been a little bit of a hiatus, but we about to ramp it up. And today we're gonna talk about the week one matchup. We're gonna do a little look ahead to see um, what you might be able to expect. Now, again, previous seasons aren't necessarily indicative of future results, but in this analytics driven world, we can use it to maybe get a feel for what it might look like. Each team is different season to season, given, what happens, roster changes, coaching changes, things like that. We know the Browns have made some changes on the coaching front. So, what I'd like to do is I'd like to take a look at the Cowboys' record against um, the teams that they played, the record against those teams, and what those defensive rankings were for those teams. So let's get that pulled up here. All right. So they played the Giants twice. The Giants were 26th in team defense. They played the Jets. The Jets were 12th. um, and they beat them. So that's 3 wins. They played the Cardinals, who were 31st in team defense, and they lost to them. Then they played the Patriots, who were 15th. They beat the Pats. And they played the 49ers, who were third in team defense. Now, they might not have been ranked. These might not have been in rankings when they met that week. So this is the end of season rankings, but you get the point. Then they played the Chargers, who were 24th in team defense. They beat them. Played the Rams, who were 19th in team defense, beat them. They played the Panthers, who were 29th in team defense. They beat them. They played the Commanders twice, who were 32nd, dead last in team defense. They went 2-0 against them. They played the Seahawks, 25th in team defense. They beat them. They played the Eagles, which was a surprise that they were 30th in team defense, but I think their secondary was a little down last year. And so they split with them. So they went 1-1. And then they played the Bills, who were fourth in team defense, caught an L from them. Played the Dolphins, who were 22nd in team defense, caught an L from them. And then they played the Lions. This isn't the schedule order. This is just the order I got it in. And then they played the Lions, who were 23rd in team defense, beat them. And then, of course, they met the Packers in the first round of the playoffs. And the Packers were 10th in team defense, and the Packers blew them out. Dak put up a lot of garbage time stats. So they went, what was their record? They went 12-5 in the regular season. And I think any objective person would tell you, given the defensive rankings of this particular schedule, they only played two top 10 defenses and 12 and what did we just say? 12-5. You would expect a record like that with a franchise quarterback. And that's a little bit of a soft schedule when you're talking about from a defensive perspective. And it's no surprise why they got hammered by the Packers when they played them in the first round of the playoffs. So if we look ahead to week one, I'm on FanDuel. We'll look at FanDuel. We'll look at BetMGM, and I don't know if I got the other one on here. So we'll just look at those two, because the Browns were a top 10, really a top 5 defense for a large part of the year. The stats kind of tapered off towards the end. The Browns had some injuries going into the later half of the season. But I think most people are expecting the Browns defense to be just like they were last year, a dominant defense in the run and in the pass, right? So, you're not worried about them from that perspective. So when we see the teams that they caught L's from last season, this is the Cowboys we're talking about. If you had a top 10 defense, they were going to struggle with that. And they lost Tony Pollard. You feel me? I want to say they might have lost another receiver. I can't really recall right now, but they haven't made a lot of moves offensively. Defense, again, They were a top, I just had it. I think they were a top 10 defense last year. But again, if you look at the schedule, they really didn't play anybody. They were fifth in team defense last year. So, how much of that was the schedule? You get to play the Commanders twice, you get to play the Giants twice. I mean, that's 4 wins right there, or 4 opportunities to kind of pad your defensive stats. And the wild card for the Browns is the offense. Nobody really knows what this offense is going to look like. And I keep hearing about it. They're saying a lot of words about it, but there's a part of me where that concerns me a little bit, because certain things that are understood don't really need to be said. So it's like they'll show us, like it'll be evident in week one. If there's any changes to that offense, it'll be evident in week one. It should be evident in week one, because while Ken Dorsey was an OC in Buffalo, and there's probably tape of some of these plays, um, you still have the combination of Stefanski and Dorsey. So there shouldn't be a lot of footage on what they're going to do schematically. At least I would guess that. Again, I'm not real sure. Maybe they are just going to bring the playbook over, but it'll be interesting to see. But that's the wild card. So if we look at what FanDuel has it at, but before we do that, let's take a brief break. Let's pause for a word from our sponsors, and then we will take a look at the money lines, the betting lines, and we'll wrap this thing on up. All right, so we back. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this off the screen real quick here. All right, so this is FanDuel, and they have the Browns currently week one. This is August the 14th, I believe. This is the 14th. Yes, August the 14th, 9:27, and they have the Browns as 1.5 point favorites. Money line is -118, so you got to put up 118 to win 100. They got the Cowboys as plus 100, and they got the Cowboys at a plus 1.5 for the spread. Your over under is 43.5. So the Browns are favored. I don't think that's a surprise. Now, if they were on the road, they probably would be underdogs. And if we look at the futures, let's see, win totals, because I think Vegas is only giving them, over 8.5 wins, under 8.5 wins. So over 8.5, -138, under 8.5, plus 112. So, I mean, if I'm reading that right, I think they're favored to go over 8.5. I feel like that's changed a little bit, but 8.5 is kind of low. Let's take a look at the Baltimore Ravens. Let's see what their win total is. So they got them at over 10.5, under 10.5, and they're actually -122. They're favored to go over 10.5. So that's interesting. Let's take a look at the Cincinnati Bengals. They're also over 10.5. Favorite to go over 10.5, -120. And let's look at Pittsburgh, and they got them at 8.5 as well, over 8.5, under 8.5. So they pretty much split it in the division, the AFC North. And let's see. So let's see if there's any change to this on BetMGM, because sometimes they're a little bit different. All right, let's go regular season. And where we at? Okay. And it looks like it's pretty much the same. You got 1.5 spread. Browns are favored by 1.5. And the money line is -125 for the Browns, plus 105 for the Cowboys. So, pretty close, pretty close margins there. But I think it's just because they're at home, they're favored. I think if Deshaun Watson didn't get hurt after the Ravens game and the offense was clicking going into the playoffs, there might be a little bit more respect on the Browns offense, on their name going into the season. But, I think they're being conservative with it because you just haven't seen it. You gotta see it before they start, factoring that in to some of the odds, if you will. But with that being said, let's go ahead and make a prediction on what we're thinking for week one. And it's Dallas. Dallas has kind of been on a Pittsburgh Steelers in terms of mediocrity, consistent, can get to the playoffs, winning record, don't really amount to nothing. Um, we know they've played a little bit of a tomato can schedule, especially last year. And we know they've struggled against teams with top defenses. They lost to the 49ers. The Browns beat the 49ers. So I'm gonna say a win for week one for the Browns. Browns start off 1-0, just given the fact that the Cowboys didn't make a lot of changes offensively, didn't make a lot of upgrades offensively. The Browns have a stout, stellar top 5 defense, and the Cowboys have struggled with that. And it's a home game. Deshaun Watson, this new offense. Even if they start slow, still think the defense should be enough to bring you home because the Cowboys have showed you. Go back to the Packers game, they struggle. Dak struggles a little bit. So we're going to go week one. We're going to say the Browns start off 1-0. So we're going to do this, 16 more times. We're going to go to week 2. And it escapes me who they play week 2. It might be the Giants. But we're going to do the same thing. We're going to look at team defense. We're going to look at, how the Giants have done. They've made some changes. They've drafted a couple of guys. So they're probably going to be a little different. But we'll see. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in to all of our affiliates here at the Fanatical Elves. We really appreciate y'all. We really enjoy, what we get to do as far as talking about the Brownies and, talking football and just, getting engaged with the community. We really appreciate that. So be on the lookout for we got a group show coming up probably here in the next 24 hours. So be on the lookout for that. And we're a couple of weeks away from week one. So it's going to be put up or shut up time. So looking forward to that. Lastly, you can get your Cleveland Browns dog food at merchandise, like the CLE hat right here, exclusive to Dawg Food Store, DAWG foodstore.com. Nerd hoodie also. We got some new apparel that'll be dropping right in time for week one to get you fitted, get you right, and all of that. So shout out to everybody out there, all the Browns fans. Shout out to everybody at the Fanatical Elves. Fantastic group of people that I get to work with. Really, really appreciate them and very, very happy to be a part of the team. So we will catch y'all on the next one.